Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. Summertime, hot out, calm, local, and before he escapes to the beach, and I've seen other executives around the National Football League escaping to the beach, and I caught up with Marvin Lewis. He's escaped back to the classrooms in the collegiate setting, but football, Luke, I was down in North Carolina last week. Football, everyone wearing football gear and college gear and summertime, and here we go, and are we going to play football, and how are we going to play football? And even before we get to the NFL, right, but these colleges bringing kids back, this has been a real problem, right? I mean, football is the sport where they touch each other. It's not tennis.
Yeah, it's a sport where you can try as much social distancing as you want, and there are certainly things that you can try to avoid, locker rooms and extensive meetings where guys are shoulder to shoulder, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of contact in football. We all know that, but that's why we love it, right? I mean, that's what makes the game so great. There are a lot of questions. I think we know that. I think we've kind of known from March on that there was going to be a lot of uncertainty, and we're about a month out now from teams reporting. Keep in mind, players, other than some select injured players, have not even been at their team facilities since the end of last season. So we'll see. I feel like, every time we have these conversations, we're saying we'll see, and I don't have anything different to offer in that regard. There's just so much unknown. I think we know that if there is a way for it to be done, they'll do it because of the money at stake, and not just talking about the owners, but players who have a very limited earning window over it's one thing to talk about a Lamar Jackson. It's another thing to talk about the 53rd player on the roster, a guy that's going to be on the practice squad who might have 2 or 3 years to earn some coin doing this. So there's a lot at stake, but there's also things far beyond football, far beyond finances at stake here when you're talking about the health of individuals and the people in their circles. So we'll see how it plays out. It's definitely strange talking to you, though, knowing that the Ravens' off-season, even being virtual, is now complete, and we have no better idea about the depth chart at right guard or rush linebacker or whatever spot you want to point to that has some questions. Not even the coaches know right now because the extent of what they've done has been on Zoom and watching guys work out on iPads and different things like that. So
they've had fun with the workouts, though, right? I mean, the conditioning test on Zoom has been hilarious, right?
Yeah, the conditioning test, and the other thing that really I thought really painted Wink Martindale specifically in a positive way. I mean, John Harbaugh had guest speakers this spring. I brought in a Ray Lewis, and Ed Reed, a Steve Smith, guys that you would expect to hear from, but Wink Martindale kind of took it a step further with his defensive meeting rooms, and he brought in guys like Dr. J and Larry Holmes and Ryan Howard and so many different individuals from the sports world. He brought in, I believe, a former Navy SEAL commander. They had Zoom meetings where the Ravens coaching staff basically said this: look, guys, we're going to do our individual workout stuff best we can. We're going to have Steve Saunders and members of the training staff looking at these guys and making sure that they're working out the right way and using the proper technique and trying to balance out everything that they do with their bodies. That way they're not going to have soft tissue injuries once they get to training camp. And they're going to talk football, and they're going to watch video, and they're going to have X's and O's, virtual chalk talk. But one thing that the Ravens coaching staff really recognized that it's impossible to quantify and say, well, that's going to turn them from 12-4 to 14-2. We have no idea. But what they did recognize and realized was that without having all of your players in the building, without having guys being able to eat in the cafeteria and congregate in the locker room and goof off with one another, and even during OTAs that evening, go out and have a beer with some of your buddies. Without having some of those team-building opportunities in the spring, the Ravens coaching staff said, we need to focus on our culture. So they brought in all of these different individuals that I mentioned, former football players, but also athletes in other sports, and just they called it their Chasing Greatness series. And to have the number of guys that they had, had Rex and Rob Ryan and Jerry Rosberg, and I mentioned Dr. J, DeMarcus Ware, they had John Calipari, they had Sage Steele, they had a former Navy SEAL commander. I mean, they just had all these different individuals from different walks of life.
Brandon Scott also was on the list.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Brandon Scott. So, but individuals who have had success from an individual standpoint, but also from a team standpoint, many of them, and really trying to create that championship mindset that, frankly, the Ravens and other teams around the league couldn't really do in the same way this spring. I clearly so much talk about social justice and racial issues that they talked about in the video they put out. So as much as they couldn't get any on-field work done, and look, that's a challenge for the Ravens, that's a challenge for Pittsburgh, that's a challenge for New England, that's a challenge for every team in the league. They're all in the same boat, although certainly some teams are better equipped to handle it than others, given continuity and veteran experience and what have you. But they really focused on making the best of the situation and bringing in some of those individuals to help these guys recognize what's important and to build some camaraderie. And you got to be impressed. And I think it's for Wink Martindale specifically to kind of take what John Harbaugh did and then to take it to a different level with the defensive side of the ball. Probably speaks well to Wink getting a head coaching opportunity at some point down the road. I'd like to see that, but they tried to do the best they could this spring, and now the question is going to be, can they get back into the facility safely and practice and get ready for a season? That's still the unknown part of this.
Well, that's a question for everybody, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And
look, man, the real story about North Carolina is everywhere I went, no one was wearing a mask. I hope you experience something different in Wildwood next week than what I'm afraid you're about to experience. I've heard the same stories in Ocean City. They've now shut down Dewey Beach, where I went pretty safely 3-4 weeks ago on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I saw the video of tennis players out partying together, no masks anywhere. I think that we're, to your point, and I know we've talked about this earlier, and we'll talk about it all week as I talk about the 4th of July and summer and baseball and how baseball is going to try to ramp this thing up in a couple of weeks. Young people and people who follow, the orange TV con man have been told, don't wear a mask. It's free. It's for wimps. And this has been going on for 4 months. Hey, you're young. It doesn't pertain to you. I was shocked by how many people were walking around with masks on inside and their kids didn't have masks on. And like holding hands with their kids. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? Like people are really, really ignorant. I keep going back to that word ignorant because it is the true essence of that word. Ignorant either of the science, the facts, the significance, the importance, their involvement, that it is very much a we thing, not a me thing, which is a very weird American concept, but that these football players, Lamar Jackson, I've watched these young guys, and I've watched their Twitter, and now that Florida's going through the roof with coronavirus, a lot of these players live in Florida. I'm not of the mindset that Lamar Jackson is socially distanced and wearing a mask because I know better. And I can't look at Earl Thomas. I'm not even going to judge the salaciousness, the sex part, the marital. I don't care about any of that. But the mere fact that the social distancing part and that his wife wanted to kill him and all of that went on 3 months ago, right? So I don't know where we are, but thinking you're going to keep 1,500 football players safe and their families and their off-the-field habits and whatever they're into, being 23, 24, 25 years old, I just find it very, very far-fetched to think they're going to play football. And I've said that all along, and I'm going to stay to that. Not because I'm a negative guy, because I'm a Baltimore positive guy. I think it's more positive that we don't have 10 guys lose their lives in the NFL this year trying to run around and get coronavirus. Yeah,
I'm not necessarily of the mind that players individually are necessarily putting their lives in danger, but I think it's much more the question of those around them. Certainly you could have some player with an unknown, medical condition that could clearly be compromised. But your point's well taken, and certainly, I've tried to be as optimistic as I possibly can all along, but I've had skepticism along the way.
I think for a tennis player or a golfer, maybe you can social distance. Maybe these NASCAR guys can do it.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, but football, basketball, I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think so. Hockey, I don't think so.
Well, I think the only thing that hockey and basketball have going for them in terms of realistically being able to pull it off is having the bubble, having the quarantine situation. But again, we come back to some of what we've talked about with some of our baseball.
There's no
dialogue.
Bubble. The only bubble, Luke, is the honor system, bro. It's the honor system. It literally is. Like, it's the ultimate honor system. My wife and I haven't touched anybody or anything, and we were in our condo pretty significantly the first 80 days, right? And clearly, I don't know where you've been or what your behaviors have been. I know what my behavior has been, and I've witnessed how the rest of the world has treated this. And, I guess I'd say it's par, but it's sad, quite frankly. And I go out and witness it now, and I see these people coughing on people in videos and throwing Karen tantrums and whatever that's out there. But I witnessed this with my own health, my wife's health, in situations where the other people just are ignorant. I don't know what other word. I don't know if they're mean or if they're doing it on purpose, maybe in some cases, or just ignorant to what they're doing, breathing on each other and breathing on me in the middle of a plague.
Yeah, look, I think in any society we can look at individuals and on bigger scales than some, and you're going to see some of that. If people aren't going to wear a mask, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go around and hold a gun to their head. Ultimately, there's a frustration factor to it, sure, but at the end of the day, I can only control what I'm going to control, and just like you, and just like other people out there, and how that impacts sports specifically. I don't think we need to go too deep into figuring that out as it pertains to society and trying to play within sports.
But again, it's the honor system, right? It's like,
and that's the other thing, too. I think I'd also be very curious for people that are very, is everyone truly doing what they say? Clearly the most blatant examples of what you saw at the beach or what you see on social media, but I don't know. But bringing it back to my point that I was making, I guess,
I'll just say this. Every day there's somebody on my timeline battling COVID. Somebody that's in my world. Right now I have a friend in the hospital, right? Literally, I have a friend about to die, actually, a Dundalk friend about to die, a girl I grew up with. So, every day, it's affected my life for the last 4 months. Not just that I can't leave the house or I have to wear a mask or, I don't bitch about any of that. I wore a mask for 3 years with my wife's condition, as you know, and didn't touch anybody. So, we did spring training for this one, right? But I am very, very skeptical that every football player and their girlfriends, wives, families, people around them are going to respect this to the point where there's not going to be an infestation and the Green Bay Packers aren't going to make it the post on Sunday. And if they think they're going to make 16 times 16 or 17 times 17, I know there's a lot of money. I know we want to play football. I know it's important. Hell, it's what we do, bro,
Sure.
But if you're giving me $1 and saying that I'm going to be at the Super Bowl in Tampa next year and they're going to play a season, I'm not buying that. I'm just not. I'm not. And to me, it's been fantasy and farcical to talk about it. And I think it's great that we're all talking about it and trying to live it like it's real. But it's. We'll continue down that pathway, but I'll believe it when I see it. How about that?
And that's fair. And look, that part of this is we've all been doing this in every aspect of our lives. If we're literally just staying home watching COVID-19 coverage, your mental health is gone at this point.
No doubt.
So some of the optimism, fantasy land or overly optimistic or any of that. That I have no problem with that. I mean, hell, I've just completed a series on the top 25 Ravens regular season moments in franchise history, and part of that was to be able to write some content where I didn't have to make a single mention of coronavirus. I mean, like, really, because everything that we're talking about currently, whether it's sports, whether it's other aspects of leisure, whether it's trying to plan other events or vacations or what have you, it's part of the conversation. I mean, and it has to be at this point. We understand that. So, I mean, I hear you loud and clear. And I've said all along, I think it can be done. That doesn't mean I think it's going to be done or it will be done. I'll say this much. I mean, it's and we're already seeing this now. But I mean, the expectation, if it's to play without a single player getting a positive test, then I'm right there with you. It's not going to happen. If there's a way to do it where that's minimized and you don't have full team outbreaks and things of that nature, then okay, I'll hear it at least. But it's certainly, these are we're in uncharted territory in our lifetime as it pertains to something like this and how it impacts sports, but far beyond sports. So I'll continue to say what I've said for months now, where we'll see. I mean, it's definitely you see the numbers, you see some of the positive tests among athletes, and seeing what's happening on college campuses, and to look at that and say that you're optimistic, you're kind of lying to yourself in that way. But we're still a month out from training camp. We're still a couple months away here, 2.5 months away here from the scheduled start of the season. So we'll see what happens between now and then. Certainly, my optimism changes week to week. My level of optimism and pessimism changes week to week. Some weeks I feel more positive about it, and some weeks I think this is crazy. There's no way they're going to pull it off. So I don't know. It's a long way of saying I don't know at the end of the day, but I think the hope in talking about it, and even if it's a little, utopian sounding right now in a dystopian world, I'm not going to fault anyone for trying to think about some positive outcomes, even if that doesn't feel so optimistic at the moment.
I'm looking for positive outcomes in November. Luke Jones can be found at Baltimore Luke anywhere the internet is found. You will not find him in the early part of July unless you're eating pizza somewhere near Wildwood, New Jersey. Stay safe with the family, and we'll get back on this football thing one way or another. Maybe we can have a whole Madden season or something, right? I don't know, but either way, have a good time. I mean, in this little part of normalcy, I'll tell you, the 5 days we spent on the beach down in North Carolina away from people felt like the only normal thing we've done in a long time. So I'll be here holding down the fort, talking baseball and apple pie and America and hot dogs and the fact that the Heritage Fair isn't happening this year. Probably save my lungs before it's all over with. So, hey, appreciate you, man. Take care of yourself at the beach, okay?
Sounds good. Be well.
Football, hopefully, maybe. I don't know. John Harbaugh doesn't know, that's for sure. And I saw that Eric DeCosta was beaching last week as well. So we'll get everybody back from the beach, try to figure this thing out a little later on in the month. We're going to be together doing the Baltimore Positive thing. Nasty at WNST.net finds me anytime, anywhere. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat. Here in the studio, out on YouTube and our WNSTV channel, and spreading some Baltimore Positive magic as well with Don Moeller later on in the week as we continue our series on race in America. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, keeping calm, staying local, and always Baltimore Positive.